Hello, friends and family of the world. My name is Thomas Zog, and I just defeated the Cam H. We'll just call him Cam H, because I think some people know what Cam H is, some people don't know what Cam H is. A little bit about me. I'm broadcasting to you from the greatest city on planet Earth, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Best place to live. We're known as Toronto the Good. There's been some hacks that have been trying to say this is the screw-face capital of Canada. And what I have to say is, go back to Montreal. All right. Ha! We're gonna kid around with the French people. All right, that's fine, that's fine. I barely speak your language. I kinda do. I love them, though. La classe. Anyways. Canada. What happened to us? We were almost fascists. We kind of are at the moment still. But it's people like me that fight to make the difference. You see, I'm a comedian and I tell jokes about how we are being oppressed in this country. Now, I'm a political dissident. I have different views about society and its direction. I don't think a war with Russia or China is good. I don't think Donald Trump is a good choice for the Americans. But I support Prime Minister Trudeau. What a great man he is. I'm certain he was a great man because he's a drama teacher. And mainly because his father was a great man. Now, almost 2 weeks ago, I was arrested on false pretenses under Canada's fascist law, the Mental Health Act. And I'm taking the Mental Health Act to task. And I look forward to dismantling it. You see, I'm fighting the Mental Health Act on the basis of the Charter that the notwithstanding clause was never enacted to hold up the Mental Health Act. And any Supreme Court justice that wishes to honor the rights and freedoms that all Canadians love and protect must strike down this law. Now, I chose a very interesting legal path to deal with on this particular hospitalization. I refused to consider myself a patient, and instead acted in a consulting capacity. Jill Holton of the Cam H Corporation was informed of this, and that I would be billing for consulting fees at a rate of $500 an hour, which, if you haven't worked that out, works out to about 12 grand a day. Very exciting stuff. Now, I'm free because I have a little bit of celebrity. I have a lot of political connections. But there are a lot of people in there that are also political dissidents that are being oppressed. Being oppressed for having different political views. Friends like Malik and Dalton and Linda and Liz and Kevin, who's still being locked in solitary confinement as we speak. Jay Roosh, a U.S. Marine. Albert Hugh, a cinematographer and fashion designer with talent. Now together, this morning, me and my fellow patients created a legal document in support of our friend Kevin, who is locked into solitary confinement illegally. And we stated this declaration, and I will now share it with you, as it will be shared with the Toronto Star. Interestingly enough, I was talking to Joe Warmington of the Toronto Sun when the Cam H staff decided to cut off the phone call and have me go through a discharge situation where they made me delete some videos that I had made in the hospital. Videos that were only of myself. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out. There will be, of course, a huge legal battle for me to collect my consulting fees, and I look forward to arguing all of that in a court of law. The legal declaration that me and my fellow impatients, me and my fellow patriots, all signed, that I have the original copy of, where copies have been distributed to various administrators and other patients surreptitiously throughout the hospital. I will read the declaration. I will name the names as a matter of public record. We, the patients of the 5th floor ACU, in the interest of protecting our dignity, human rights, and fostering a culture of mutual respect, do hereby formally request the following Cam H staff work in a capacity where their interaction with inpatients is limited, restricted, and closely monitored. The reasoning behind this decision of issuing a collective ban on these individuals is based on our belief of their medical incompetence, falsification of records, and their betrayal of the public trust while serving in a capacity as public servants. Paula, Rita, Dawn, Woody, Dr. Balchuk, Francesco, and Mariah. A word of caution to prospective employees desiring to work on this cutting-edge unit, referring to the 5th floor ACU, or any other unit that is obviously employing these tactics of healing. We have found a better way to address and resolve mental health issues than the psychiatric method. Since CAMH is a research hospital, we would like to formally communicate a modicum of our methodology. When we started working together as a team of patients, united in purpose, working patient to patient, with patience, love, compassion, and respect, our individual and collective conditions improved considerably. We understand, quote-unquote, mental illness better than you. We welcome staff who wish to be part of improving the mental health system to participate with us, and those who think it's fine the way it is are invited to work in other parts of the hospital. Sincerely, Thomas Zog, myself, Elizabeth Mullick, Albert Hugh, Jay Roosh, and Kevin, who is still locked in seclusion. Now, these patients are my friends. Now, Miss Mullick graduated from law school. She almost completed her articling, and there was some type of shenanigans going on, and no one believed her, so they threw her in the mental hospital. Now they want to treat her with electroshock therapy. They aim to begin this course of treatment in a week, and although I have been granted my freedom, my fellow patriots and political dissidents are still being imprisoned and held against their will in a very illegal fascist prison. Psychiatry is a crime against humanity, and I declare that because I know that to be the truth. I invite anybody that gives a shit about Canada, that gives a shit about freedom, that gives a shit about the earth, to get involved, to stand up, to speak up, to say your piece, to make your voice heard, to be rude if you got to. Sometimes you gotta say things that are downright ugly to make people that are oppressing you pay attention. And as a comedian, that's what I do. But the thing is, I wasn't always some slack-jawed joker, you see? I was originally a Mormon priest. And then I realized I was queer. Queer. How did I find out I was queer? Well, I found myself living in the city of Edmonton, Alberta, and I said, oh, boy, this is a very depressing place. Very depressing place. I don't know. I'm either going to jump off this bridge or I have to reinvent myself. So I started sucking dick. Huge dicks. Like my boyfriend, Scott Parker. Still love the guy. Trouble is, it was on his birthday. I think when I was in the middle of fucking him in the ass that I realized, man, I really wish this guy had a vagina. And it was at that point that I realized, whoa, maybe I'm just queer. You see, I'm comfortable identifying myself as queer because, well, my girlfriend's flat-chested. I love it. Love it. Man. I mean, I make that joke because I know she has a sense of humor. And plus, I mean, I'm not a huge boob guy, you know? Like, I'm not a boob. I'm more of an ass man. It's alright, though. I'm the luckiest man alive. You see, Karen's an art therapist, and she helped me. And there are better ways of helping people that are dealing with issues surrounding their quote-unquote mental health. This whole concept that there is a chemical imbalance in the brain that is causing people to behave strangely is bullshit. There's no evidence for it. I mean, how could you... Anybody that's scientifically literate would know that. But I guess scientists don't really have the balls to say what's true and stand behind it. They need someone like me to do it for them. Ooh. Interesting stories, though. Interesting things happened on that unit. Like my friend Jay Roosh, he was supposed to get out today to meet his woman, who's also named Karen. She was going to drive in from St. Catharines to let the man be free, to be released to her custody. And this twerp doctor, and I don't think he's a doctor who's really applicable. That's why I call him Mr. Castor. Mr. Castor was paranoid of this guy. They were sitting down, Mr. Castor and Miss Stone, another pretend doctor. And, Roche was there, and this guy is a big dude. I mean, he was in the Marine Corps, for Christ's sake. He's a patriot. He's an American, but he lives in Canada. So what? So what? What of it? The guy, I think a lot of people in the city of Toronto don't understand the military. I had the privilege of serving in the 604 Moose and the 845 Avro Aero Squadrons of the Air Cadets of Canada, the Royal Canadian Air Cadets. And I learned a lot. Learned a lot when I served. Now, I made some different decisions on my life path. Mainly because I decided, you know what? I'd really like to have a taste of all of these freedoms that they say our men and women are going to fight and die overseas for. Trouble is, I started to discover those freedoms weren't really here. Those freedoms were a bunch of smoke and mirrors, you see? And it all stems around this phony mental health law that oppresses people for being different and strange, for saying things that are uncomfortable. Well, as a comic, I can say whatever the fuck I want. It doesn't matter if you're offended. I don't give a shit if you don't like when I use the word nigger, or chink, or wop, or gook, or any other stupid racial slur. Because if you get caught up on a racial slur, you're a racist and an idiot, because clearly you can't see beyond the label. Just like you probably couldn't see beyond the label schizophrenic, or bipolar, or anorexic. You see? It's all just a bunch of labeling. And the thing is, the psychiatric diagnosis is the worst type of oppression. Much worse than the N-word, or the G-word, or the C-word, or any of those other crazy words. When you call someone crazy, what you're really saying is you, as a person, are not valid. Well, I am valid, regardless of what some fucking asshole might think. Now, you might wonder, well, Mr. Zog, how did you find yourself in this situation? To use some feminist rhetoric, I would say, don't do the victim-blaming thing. But I'll explain my case. I'll explain my case because I'm happy to do that. Why? Because my life's an open book, and I share it with the world. Yeah. I was making a web series. See, there's a lot of videos on this channel. They're not the greatest. It's low quality, but this is proof of concept. I'm putting together a very high art concept. My show Zog is about exploring some things, I wanted to explore the criminal underworld in a humorous way from the perspective of a queer Mormon bishop that plays his guitar on the streets. Now, there are some things that I have contested in my religion that may or may not make sense to everybody. And that's all right. The Book of Mormon isn't just some Trey Parker, Matt Stone musical. It's a real religion, and it means a lot to some people. I'm a person that the Book of Mormon means a hell of a lot to. And Mormonism is a great religion. But like all religions, we've got some problems, but we're working on it. Now, the thing is, I've served in a capacity as a Mormon priest ever since I was 16 years old. Next month, I turn 30 on April the 14th. And I have made a case in canon law, which is the law of these types of things in regards to this, that, and the other thing, that I am the rightful presiding bishop of the Mormon religion. Now, my stated purpose to fellow Mormons that may be of interest to this, who is this screw-faced kid that thinks he can speak for the perfect religion that we know? I would point out there's a difference between a Utah Mormon and a Community of Christ member and a Temple Lot member. I'm aware of the fundamental LDS Church. I'm aware of the people in Bountiful. Apparently my dad knew the guy that started that whole polygamous thing in Bountiful. And you know what? Here's the deal with polygamy. Like Toronto, if we're gonna do all this polyamory shit, if some people are comfortable doing polygamy and they choose to do it as fucking adults, why is that your business? I mean, in the words of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, What happens in the bedrooms of Canadians is no business of the state. And it doesn't matter if you have a big bedroom with 5 or 6 people, or a small bedroom with 2, or if you're just one guy in your apartment jerking off. I mean, you're allowed to do whatever you want in the privacy of your own home, in theory. But this is what happens when freedoms are threatened. And we choose to go, oh, well, that freedom doesn't affect me, so I'm not gonna speak up about it. What you should know is that when one person's rights are violated, your rights can be violated too. Now this is where I'm going with my show and my life, and these are the things that I want to do. I believe world peace is possible. I believe that it starts in the mind. Now these are some bold beliefs, and maybe one day some goon might try and put a bullet in my head for saying it. That doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna say it anyway. You know why? Because life is short. Life is sweet. As long as you don't make it meaningless. Now I've been able to make friends with hoods and hoodlums all over the world. I mean, I've shaked hands with Russian gangsters and Hell's Angels members, and I respect all the brethren and all the orders. But the system is somewhat out of order. And in keeping with Agenda 21 protocols, I'd like to clearly state, I do believe in the concept of a one world government. I do believe that there should be one law for the world. I do believe that all countries should be united under one banner of a human race. But the thing is, it shouldn't be the bankers that do it. It should be people like you and me. People that got nothing. You see, I grew up supposedly rich. I grew up in a big house with a dad that had a level 3 security clearance and a propensity to beat and rape his children. Oh, Daddy, is that a tough accusation? Great, we can fight it out in court. There's some interesting things in my medical records, which will soon become public information. And I consent to that. I consent to going under the public microscope. I did that years ago when I started putting myself in the public eye. Now you might remember me from such political clusterfucks as the People's Political Party of Ontario, the G20 protests, Occupy Toronto, and now the patients of the 5th floor ACU. My heart is with them. I'm deeply troubled and concerned for the tortures that will be inflicted upon them while I'm out here getting on this message. I'm specifically concerned about poor Kevin, who's being held in solitary confinement. You see, the psychiatric record is based on a bunch of hearsay and nonsense. And if people want to claim that mental health patients are violent, then what I would like to suggest is press some fucking criminal charges. Because mental illness is no excuse for criminal behavior. That's my opinion. That's my legal opinion. And I don't think anyone should be above the law. Currently, psychiatrists are above the law. We want things to be peaceful. We want things to work out. So now I'm going to go to a coffee shop, upload this video, in case, God forbid, something happens to me before I get home. You never know. You never know, you know? Maybe I might have crossed somebody that I shouldn't have. But I don't think I did, you know? So, that's my case. I guess you could say I have a huge set of balls, but I just have a big love for the world. And I think that's the only thing that's going to save this place. Because frankly, humanity, the way that we're going right now is not sustainable. The way that we're going right now, we're going to destroy this place. And there's some assholes that say, oh, there's too many humans. We have to get rid of the humans. We have to reduce the world's population to 500 million. Well, fuck that. I think we should get rid of all the people that think we should reduce the world's population. That's what I think we should do. I think we should be cracking down on a lot of these corporations that are making shitty products and poisoning you. It's time for an intellectual revolution. So anyone with a brain in your head, anyone with a thought, I want you to stand with anti-fascism. I want you to stand with the Bandit. Well, I mean, you don't got to stand with my hip-hop crew. but I mean, if you want to check out our music, we're pretty good. I mean, I like to think so. Big shout outs to Lord Acuna, Rebel River, Larry Birds, and all of the Bandees crew. Also, special considerations given to the comics of Toronto that are not dicks. Believe me, there are a lot of great comedians in this city, but for whatever reason, the dicks seem to run the show. And, I did accuse Second City of stealing some of my intellectual property, and I am going to be mounting some litigation against Second City for stealing my intellectual property. On top of this, I'm now alleging that Second City corporate officers participated in a conspiracy to have me falsely arrested and placed in mental health prison. So those are terrible accusations, lawyers of Second City. You're either going to have to call out a hit or deal with this kid. And I don't care what you do, but do something. Do something that's right. I suggest what you do is you fire Joel Buxton, because that prick thinks he runs the comedy scene in Toronto because he runs a fucking Facebook page. Guess what, Joel Buxton? You're not even fucking funny. So take that. Ooh. Everyone else that you think you got a reason to be afraid of me, maybe you should stop listening to little twerps like Vandad Carter. Oh, that's right, I gave him a shout out, even though he is a piece of shit. Why? Well, if you look into Vandad Carter's history, you can very clearly see that he is a plant of the Iranian Communist Party. That's kind of fucked up. Now, I met Vandad Carter during Occupy Toronto. And you know what he did to me back then? He didn't like the fact that I was... See, Occupy Toronto, it wasn't just Vandad, obviously. There were a lot of other spooks involved in this conspiracy. And there are conspiracies that do happen against people, you know? Especially people that are politically minded and want to make a real difference in the world. What I tried to make Occupy Toronto about was reforming our banking sector and our monetary supply in a way that actually would make sense. And of course, all these stupid hippies at Occupy could not see the fucking Nazis moving in, bringing in this cultural Marxist bullshit. And that's the thing. I'm going to say fuck you to your cultural Marxist bullshit. And I would call bullshit on bullshit. I wouldn't take people's shit. Now, some would say I was aggressive and violent, but those are libelous false accusations. I would get in people's face, I would say a bunch of shit, and if they got so angry that they wanted to punch me in the face, I would take the punch. You know why? Because I'm a comedian, and I use my fucking words. That's a commitment that I made. That's a commitment to peace. Again, commitments to peace. I will say, I honor and uphold the law. Special consideration to the Hote Hote of the Mohawk Nation for sharing the law of peace. And to all my native brothers and sisters of Canada, I will clearly state again, as a Munya, I will honor the original Umpum Wampum. I would say that we have been misspelling and mispronouncing the name of this country for far too long. It's Kanata, not Canada. Kanata. It's a slight cultural difference. It's been going on for some 200 years, but a lot of innocent people have been killed and maimed and murdered because of it. You know, currently in Canada, there are over 12,000 missing and murdered Aboriginal women. And I'm accusing the RCMP of being involved. Now, there is some circumstantial evidence that should be considered by the wider public. Things that just don't make sense. For example, the Robert Pickton situation. Why is it that various political officials of the BC Interior Government and the RCMP would go for barbecues on this most prolific serial killer's farm? What purpose does that serve? Why does no one in the justice system have the legal cojones to ask, well, wait a minute, what the hell is the logical explanation of those assholes hanging out on that farm? And maybe Robert Pickton was just a fall guy. I'm pretty sure he did participate in some of the murders as well. But to say he was the only guy is like trying to say that Oswald was the only guy involved in the Kennedy assassination. Oh my God, those are a bunch of conspiracy theories. No, those are facts. And if you're too dumb to interpret the facts, you need to start getting smarter. That's what it is. I mean, Bill Hicks would explain that shit to you. And if somebody gave a shit, they could edit this together and make it make more sense and make it look pretty. I love this country. I love the earth. I love my God. And I just want to state it's everybody's God. You can interpret God however you want. You don't have to take the Mormon road, but for me, the Mormon road makes the most sense. But for someone else, a different road might make the most sense. I'm not going to comment on how you find God. You find God on your own, and you be loyal to that. Look for people to love and cherish the ones you love and hold them close. Because love is what's going to save the world. It's fear and mistrust and suspicion that will be our undoing. And yeah, sometimes the world can be dark and scary. But the way that you conquer fear is not by burying your head in the sand. It's by looking death straight in the face and trying to make it laugh. So Officer Bubbles, I love you. I think you're a great cop. And to any dirty cop in Toronto that might want to put a hit out on Mr. Zog, just remember, Chief Saunders may or may not have been a Mormon at one point in his life. From what I understand, his mother is in the Oakville ward. Oh, Mormonism. It's a very bizarre religion. Very bizarre. Did you know that 30% of the FBI and CIA were Mormon? That's very strange. You want to know something even stranger about Canada's intelligence community? For whatever reason, at least from what I've heard, people of CSIS are not allowed to have any faith. Now, I was watching news the other night, and there are some major pitfalls in this country's online security. And I believe it was Mr. Paulson of the RCMP that noticed that and decided that we needed to have more secure internet connections all around this nation. Because if you don't know a thing about hackers, hackers can break shit. Now, there are good hackers and bad hackers. Simple as that. Some people want to see good things happen, and some people are part of what the Mormon religion would refer to as the secret combination. I believe in my religion wholeheartedly, probably more so than most, but that's because my religion taught me to love everyone. My religion taught me to see myself in everyone, to recognize the space behind everyone else's eyes is the exact same space behind mine. And that is my hope and prayer, that we can see humanity for this truly beautiful thing that it can be. You know, I'm seeing a father play with his son, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful moment to see families coming together in love and understanding, with peace and respect. You know, when I started the People's Political Party of Ontario with Kevin Clark as the founding president and Kevin Clark as the leader, I worked with Kevin because I knew he had a passion for our democracy. Kevin would always say, "God bless the child." You know, at the time that I was president of the People's Political Party of Ontario, I think I must have been 24, 25 years old. I was very young, maybe 5 years ago. Now, I'm not saying the People's Party is necessarily the party you want to vote for. We've only ever been in it to affect the debates. We want to remind people in the Western world that this idea that you're wrestling, your politics is a wrestling match between communism and fascism is insane. It's about time that we started making decisions based around what is the best thing for everyone in our society. What is the best thing to happen? Because this whole left-right paradigm creates something called cognitive dissonance and prevents you from being logical. We have a weird type of left-right tribalism, when really, we need to start recognizing that ideas on both sides of the political spectrum have valid points to make. Now, the mayor of my wonderful city is a man named John Tory. John Tory is the bee's knees. I love this guy. John Tory's the shit, to say it so plainly and bluntly. I mean, he's done a lot of great things, like he made the TTC free for children. Did nobody notice that? He cracked down on everybody parking on the street during rush hour. Why? Because it creates so much gridlock. It makes it almost impossible to get around this city. John Tory's also financially responsible. He comes from a conservative background. That doesn't mean he's not going to protect the interests of Toronto. You want to know something? John Tory's an approachable guy. I mean, I was walking by on the street and I said, "Hey, Mayor Tory, how you doing?" And he stopped for a minute and he shook my hand and talked to me. People that are like that are trustworthy people. For all he knew, I could have had a gun, but he still stopped and talked to me, a total stranger on the street, and I believe he was with his wife. Now, he asked me what I did for a living, and I told him I was a stand-up comedian. And it was funny, because the guy has a good sense of humor. He pointed out I looked like a comedian. And I asked him if he was saying, "Does that mean that you're saying I have a funny face?" I made him laugh. We can all get along, if we want to get along. And that would be a great line in a song. I am making a long video. I make long video rants. And instead of having my classic 33 minutes and 33 seconds, I'm going to start to shut it down here. Because I hear the sirens in the background. And I know how real and scary the world is right now. It doesn't have to be this way, though. We can get out of this place. How? We can just make it nicer. We can start being nicer to each other. You know? Now, if I accidentally filmed anyone in this video, try and keep in mind they're just regular citizens walking around. I've done my best to keep everyone else out of the frame because I don't want anyone else to be compromised, you see? Because when you live in a fascist country and you tell the truth about living in a fascist country, the fascist country is going to try and stop you from telling the truth about the fascism that you're experiencing. If you want to learn anything from history, I suggest you look up the Dietrich Bonhoeffer character. See, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, he was part of the resistance in Germany that stood up to the Nazis. He helped many Jews escape. Well, I'd like to inspire the world to learn from the warnings that were not heeded by Mr. Bonhoeffer. To the people of North America living in the countries of the Five Allies, I'd say this: it is time to put your governments on notice. It is time to make the governments of these countries that claim to be democratic and free to start working for the freaking people. And to the jerks at CSEC that leaked the metadata of over 6 million Canadians, you're gonna have to explain yourselves in court one day. I don't give a shit about what you think is classified or not classified. It's time for all secrets to come out. And the only place to do that is in court. And until then, I will honor, uphold, and sustain the law because I'm beholden and bound to the Official Secrets Act. Ciao.